So good morning everyone, my name is Lalit Soni and you are watching Drishti IAS. In this live, we will be discussing Indian Express of the day. We will be going through 3-4 important articles. Today's newspaper was around 16 pages, so it was you can say a shorter newspaper today. So this discussion will be very easy for us because obviously there are nothing much to cover. So when we are talking about the front page here, you can see alarm bells as heat wave pushes up peak demand. Power Ministry asks utilities to be on high alert. So basically, because of the heat waves which are going on, there is a power you can say demand has increased. Okay, because of the equipments which are being used in the households as well as the industry. Okay, other than that, now when we are talking about the coming months, then these months of June, etc. So after the June, you know that there is this another cycle of agriculture which started. So because of which there will be a demand in the agriculture sector as well of the electricity for the irrigation, etc. So we know that this power demand will increase, and that is why the government agencies has said that, or the agencies which are responsible for the power grids, etc. They have actually been on the alert that they should manage in such a way that there is minimum power shortage or the outage. Okay, so that is about it. There is nothing much to cover from this particular ground because there are two reasons which are given. One was heat wave, second was this demand in the agriculture sector which will be rising in the upcoming months. Okay, then there was this accident which has happened. Okay, nearly 9 person has been killed and over 40 people has been injured, wherein you can say goods train has collapsed with the, or you can say had an encounter with the passenger train. Okay, so that was the incident which happened in Bengal. Okay, so that is there. We'll be discussing about it if there is some kind of explain section or something like that, how these things impact or why these rail accident incidents are increasing. So if there is something like that in the explain section, then we will cover it. Otherwise, it is just a news wherein they have talked about the incident. Okay, so that is not important for us. Coming to this part, NSA meet, India USA pledges to deepen partnership in critical and the new technologies. So this is a general article wherein they have talked about increasing the participation. Okay, so areas like you can say AI or 5G, etc., defense sector, or you can say the production, etc., investment, etc. They have talked about. These are general article. There is nothing important for us to note. Okay, so that is about the front page. Now coming to the explanation part where we will be talking about the articles. Okay, first we will talk about the practice question which was given to you in the previous lecture. Then we'll come to the US EU anti-subsidy action. Okay, when we talk about the subsidies, India to promote its export sector, we have certain schemes to promote our export section. Okay, when we are talking about these countries like USA, EU, they will go for the countervailing duty so that their domestic markets are protected. Okay, now when we talk about the export subsidy sector, there is certain restrictions which has been put by the World Trade Organization. So we'll talk about that and why this particular incident is in news. So we will talk about that as well. Okay, then DSR, cultivation of rice. This is of rice. Okay, so in rice cultivation there is a traditional method and there is this new method, that is DSR. Okay, so this is direct, you can say, seedling replacement. Okay, so we will talk about this, how these are done, why it is important, why it is, you can say, effective or optimal, where it will be optimal. Okay, so we will talk about all these things. Mostly when we talk about the rice cultivation, the first thing comes to our mind is Punjab, and right now Punjab is witnessing a water crisis. Okay, and because of which it is important for us to go away from the traditional methods of the rice cultivation. So we'll talk about that as well. Then next is what is mifepristone. Okay, so there is this drug, we will be talking about this drug. Okay, so that is there. Then international affairs, we will take one or two article. What I have decided that in the international affairs section, we will be talking about a map every day. We will try to, if there is limited sections in the newspaper, we will go for a map wherein we will be discussing about certain areas from the global, or you can say world map. Okay, so that can be important because this time in UPSC they have asked map based questions. So that is why it will be quite easy for us if we have idea about the contemporary issues at the global level, otherwise the areas which has been in the news. Okay, so that will be there. Then for your own read there will be one article, and last there will be a practice question. Okay, so let's start with the practice question which was given to you in the previous lecture. What does non-revenue water refers to? Okay, so yesterday we have talked about non-revenue water. This is the kind of water which actually has been produced, or you can say from the treatment plants these water has been released, but the thing is it is not billed, okay, or used effectively. So basically what has happened that when we are talking about the municipalities etc. So let's say there was this 100 units of water which has been generated, or you can say which has been made for the people. When we are talking about the made, we are saying that made available for the population. Okay. So this 100 unit has been made available for the population by the government. By the time it reaches to the individuals, it is reaching nearly 42 units. Okay. This is the particular case of Delhi, wherein there is a loss of 58 units in the midway. Okay, this can be because of the leakages, it can be because of the stealing etc. So this 58 units are basically not billed because meters are here at the consumer's end. Okay, now this water is not reaching over here, so that meter will not record it. Meter will only record 42 units. So this 58 unit has been lost. That is basically your non-revenue water. Okay, so for that government will not be generating any revenue, because when we are talking about these 42 units which are metered, which are billed, so which ultimately will be billed. Okay, so the consumer will be paying for that. Okay, so that is the revenue water, and this 48 units are basically your non-revenue water. Okay, right now Delhi is also facing some kind of water crisis, so that is why this term was in news, so we have discussed it. Now coming to the first part, that is basically your article. So United States, European Union last year imposed CVD, countervailing duty, on some products. Okay, when we talk about these CVDs or the countervailing duties, these are basically, you can say that it is to protect the domestic market. Now let's say India. In India there was a, you can say, let's say we are talking about steel over here. So let's say particular quantity of steel, or let's say 1 unit, okay, that has been made let's say on rupees 100. Now government has given a subsidy to the producer over here. Okay, in this particular area they have given a subsidy of let's say 30 units, 30 rupees. So for per unit we are charging 70. Now this 70 rupees steel we are exporting it. Okay, now this, because of this 30 rupees subsidy, there is a profit which has enhanced, or you can say there is an you can say incentive for this person to go for the production of steel, so that we can export it. Okay, so such things are done by Indian government. Earlier they used to give such kind of subsidy. Okay, but these subsidies were not WTO you can say reliant, or you can say compatible. So that is why they have been doing away with this subsidy, and what they are doing is they are going for the tax refunds. Okay, so if there is any tax which government has charged on the production method, on the other stages of the business, at that point of time, if they have gone for a particular tax, now government what they are doing is they are refunding that particular tax. Okay, now ultimately earlier they used to give this subsidy, now they are actually removing the taxes, or you can say refunding the taxes. Now this practice is WTO complementary, or you can say compliance is there. So that is why this particular thing was in news. Now the thing is, let's say there is some kind of tax. Let's say a person who has made this particular unit of steel, he has paid nearly, in dollars if we talk about, they have paid $10 as tax. Okay, but the thing is, how will you decide how much tax has been paid by this particular person? That is important here. Otherwise, if let's say he has paid this much and government is giving him uh, $20, in that case he will be receiving an extra incentive. Okay, but the thing is that will act as a subsidy and not tax refund. Okay, so ultimately countries like USA and EU, or you can say European Union, they are saying that what is the procedure to decide on how much of the tax has been paid. Okay, is there a framework based on which you go for this particular decision? Okay, so that is why this particular news article was in news. So let's talk about it. US, EU anti-subsidy action mechanism to verify tax refunds in the pipeline. Okay, so they are saying that there should be a mechanism to verify the tax refunds. Okay, how much he has paid, that much only should be refunded. Okay, now here you can say institutional mechanism to verify tax refunds given to the exporters. So basically now finance ministry and the commerce and industry ministry, they are devising a mechanism, because that has been asked by the USA and EU. They have questioned this particularly. Here you can say the USA has sought clarity on India's method for verification of rates provided to the exporters under government's remission of duties and taxes on exported products, that is ROD TAP. This road tap scheme is there. Okay, so basically under this scheme we are providing the refunds to the exporters. these refunds are basically your tax refunds. Now the bodies like EU, or you can say organizations like EU and USA, they are basically asking you, is there a verifiable mechanism for that or not. Considering that we are going for a here you can see we are trying to work on a institutional mechanism for that. Okay. Now coming over here, when we are talking about the as of now how rates are decided, so there is this committee. Okay, that committee is under G.K. Pillai. Okay, so this committee used to decide the rates. Okay, now here you can see the duty emission on the schemes to stay clear of the countervailing duties imposed by the top importing countries such as European Union and USA. Now, if you are giving any kind of subsidy, okay, earlier we had this another scheme, okay, that was merchandise export subsidy scheme, I guess. So, in that particular scheme, what you used to do is we used to provide a particular subsidy, okay, so that the rate, or let's say there was this $100 for something, we have provided a subsidy of nearly $30, and now this is of $70 because of the lesser rate. Demands is high in the market, because of the lesser rate it is highly competitive in the global market. Okay, so we want our exports to be cheap so that people will go for buying our things or our goods and services. Okay, that is why we are trying to keep our exports at low rate, and that is why government used to give this particular subsidy. Now if you give a subsidy and the country which is taking your giving you an order and taking your exports, so basically if they are adding some kind of tax over there, okay, so that is called countervailing duty. Okay, now they are adding some tax, so that again it is coming to nearly, let's say, 95 or something. Okay, so because of this particular countervailing duty, these exports are discouraged by the domestic country, or you can say the country which is importing it. Okay, and that is why this countervailing duty, we had to make some arrangement to avoid this countervailing duty, and that is why we have come up with the RODTEP. Okay, RODTEP. Now why countervailing duties are important? Because see, if the exports are cheap, okay, let's say India and China, if we talk about, now China is making cheap goods and services, and they basically are sending it to, or they are dumping it to the other countries. Okay, now if there is a, let's say, Chinese good which is cheaper than the domestic good which is produced in India by some MSME, so ultimately it will harm the Indian market, it will harm the Indian producers. Okay, to avoid that, okay, or to avoid the dumping of the cheap goods inside our country, we are going for the countervailing duties. Okay, similarly countries like USA and EU are also going for such things. So to avoid that, we have come up with this remission of duties and taxes on the exported product. Okay, now here you can see this comes after the US and EU last year imposed countervailing duties on the paper file folder, common alloy aluminum sheets and forged steel fluid following the anti-subsidy investigation. Okay, so they have gone for the subsidy investigation, and they found that there is this some kind of subsidy which has been given by the on these particular products, and they have come up with a countervailing duty on that. Here you can see countervailing duties are tariffs on imported goods that are imposed to offset subsidy given by the exporting country. So basically they are to offset the subsidy given by the exporting country. If exporting country is giving some kind of subsidy, then you can go for the countervailing duties to, you can say, balance that. Okay, now it is aimed at protecting the domestic industry. Okay, I hope this is clear, because out of this article what is important for us is that CVD, that is countervailing duty, and second is this scheme, that is RODTEP. Okay, so these two things you can remember from this particular article. Now the US does not recognize the GK Pillai committee. As I told you, right now we have this committee for the recommendation on the rates which we are refunding. So USA does not recognize the GK Pillai committee. They are asking if India has an official verification system in place or not. So we need to have an official verification mechanism to ascertain or verify that the rate which the exporters are getting is actually within the level of the duty which they are paying. Okay, so basically whatever refunds we are making, that is within the amount they have paid as a duty. Otherwise, if that exceeds, that can be an you can say an issue for us, because that will not be complying with the WTO. Okay, now the Commerce Ministry is consulting with the Department of Revenue to formulate a verification mechanism to validate the RODTEP rates. Okay, now when we are talking about this particular scheme, that is RODTEP scheme, it was announced in January 2021. Refunds embedded duties and taxes such as value added tax used on or you can say on fuel used in the transportation, mandi tax, duty on electricity, etc. So such taxes which are being paid by the producer over here, okay, so such taxes will be refunded back. Okay, here you will see it replaces the WTO incompliant or the WTO incompatible merchandise export from India scheme. Okay, so this earlier we used to have this particular scheme, that is MEIS, merchandise exports from India scheme, under which we used to go for the subsidy. Okay, so from because of which we have faced certain challenges from the WTO, and ultimately we have changed it to this remission of duties, okay, on the exported products. Okay, so to boost the exports we are going for these particular things. Okay, now right now we are having this particular scheme. Now let's talk about this scheme in a particular way. Here you can say features of broad type scheme is we see the refund of the previously non-refundable duties. Earlier when we had this MEIS, at that point of time we had not gone for any kind of refunds etc. on the duties. So earlier it was non-refundable duties and taxes, mandi tax, VAT, coal cess, central excise duty on fuel etc. will now be refunded under the particular scheme, that is ROTAP. Automated system of credit is there. Okay, so the rebate is issued after the transferable electronic script by the Central Bureau Board of Indirect Taxes and the Customs. So when you have paid it, after this receipt has been there, so after the transaction they will send it back to the, it will credit into your account again. Okay, then quick verification through the digitization, that is there. Multi-sectoral scheme, it is a multi-sectoral scheme, and there are certain areas which has been prioritized, like sectors like labor incentive sectors. Okay, so that is about the scheme and the, you can say, its features. When we are talking about MEIS, as I told you, incentives available on the exports of the goods. Okay, so here these are the incentives, or you can say some kind of subsidy which was given. It was not compliant with the WTO norms because it was a subsidy, and ultimately that was to make, actually the thing is WTO's job is to make sure that the market remains fair. Okay, the competition is healthy. Okay, when you are going for such subsidies and making your product cheap, okay, so because of which that is trade derogatory practices. Okay, so you are, the government is giving some kind of incentive, and because of which exports are cheap and you are selling these exports and dumping these exports basically outside. Okay, this will harm the domestic market of that particular country, and that is why it is trade distorting. That is why we have to do away with the MEIS, and then we have come up with this refund of duties and taxes that are currently not being reimbursed by the this particular scheme. Okay, and then it is compliant with the WTO norm because we are refunding the taxes which we have taken from the you can say our citizens, and we are giving it back to them. Okay, so that is there. Now moving further to the next article, that is basically your DSR, that is direct seeding of rice, or earlier direct seedling replacement. Okay, the thing is, when we talk about direct seeding of rice, there are two methods, or there are various methods, but when we are talking about the prominent one in India, one is there that we will go for the plant, or you can say we will germinate the seed inside a nursery, and then these seedlings will be taken to the field after like 15 to 20 days, and then these seedlings will be you can say implanted in the fields which are basically flooded with water. Okay, that takes a lot amount of water, first thing. Second thing is it will take a lot of amount of labor as well, because this is a manual work which you have to do on your own. Now because of which what happens, that first thing is water demand increases, second labor demand increases. Okay, second thing is the cost also increases, because if labor demand increase, the cost will also increase. And now considering water demand, areas like Punjab, okay, so these are not basically well conditions to grow rice, but because of the green revolution and afterwards, in the aftermath, we have seen that these are the you can say crops which has been incentivized by the government at that point of time. So the farmers of this particular area has actually gone for the crops like wheat and rice. Okay, now rice is a very the kind of crop which require a lot of water. Okay, the area of Punjab, they used to have this groundwater, and they actually gone for the irrigation technologies, and they have extracted the groundwater for the use of irrigation in the rice fields. Okay, ultimately right now Punjab is going through a water crisis because these all groundwater has been utilized and the groundwater table is depleting, because of which there are certain concerns when we are talking about the cultivation of rice in Punjab. Now we are going for the alternative which are available. So one alternative is DSR, that is direct seeding of rice. Now in the direct seeding, what you will do is you will directly implant, or you can say put seeds in the field. You will go for the drilling first, and then you will put these seeds over there, and then there will be use of water, but there will be optimum use of water. You don't have to flood the fields. Earlier in the case of you can say this case here, you can see this is the traditional practice where you can see the water fields are basically filled with water or flooded with water, and now this is direct seeding of rice, wherein you don't have to go for the, you can say, flooding of the rice fields. Okay, so this way you can actually save a lot of water. Second thing is, these manual labor might not be required, because there are some machinery which are available, like seeders etc., which are available in the market. Okay, now coming to the article, direct seeding of rice, the technique of sowing promoted by the Punjab government for the past several years. Okay, this is also called as tar water technique, okay, of sowing. When we are talking about the efforts which has been made by the government is giving some kind of incentives like 1500 rupees per acre they are giving to the farmers to adopt to this particular technique. But right, when we are talking about the change which has been there, only 2% of the rice cultivation fields are basically seeded with this particular technique. Okay, what is our target? Government is targeting nearly 10%. So that is there. For that they have come up